Welcome to the Focus on Why podcast. I'm Amy Rowlandson and I ask my guests one simple question. Why? Focusing on the importance of why, I share with you the relatable, uplifting and inspiring conversations I have with people from all walks of life. This podcast will encourage you to focus on your why to enable and empower you to achieve the success you desire. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we get started, are you thinking of creating a podcast or are you a podcast host already? As a podcast strategist, I can help you to launch or relaunch a purposeful and profitable podcast which will inspire, entertain and educate a global audience. Simply book in a one-to-one call with me right now via the Calendly link in the show notes, and together we'll focus on the purpose of your podcast. Today on Focus on Why, I am joined by the Care Connector, Mr. Iain Clague. Hello, welcome to you. How are you doing, Iain?
Hi, Amy. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah, and where are you calling from today?
A place called Mauchline, which is in Scotland. It's Robbie Burns country.
I feel like a radio presenter. Where are you calling from? I've never said that before, but yeah. It's all good. Yeah, so Scotland, and all good up there? What's happening in Scotland right now?
Weather's not great. It's absolutely belting it down as per usual. Windy, cold, but it's the winter. What can you expect?
Well, it's the same for us down here in the south, which is probably just not being battered as much as you are up there. It's a bit more extreme. Well, look, we're not here to talk about the weather. What is it we're talking about today? What is it you're doing at the moment, Iain?
Building the Careconnect Network is what I'm doing. It's something that I started up last year. And I started it up out of a bit of frustration, really, because I saw that lots of people on the Facebook groups, managers' Facebook groups of the care sector would ask for help. And people like myself, who was a small independent trainer, would go, "Oh, I can help you with that." And then we would be told that we couldn't advertise on the site what we could do. So I went and set up a Facebook page, and it wasn't called the Careconnect Network at the time. It was far too many words to actually remember what it was called with my dyslexic brain, to allow people to basically tell everyone what they did, a bit like you allow everyone on here to tell what they do. It was pretty much set up to allow people to do that. Once a week, they could advertise what they did so that people in the care sector knew. One of the things that always got to me was that it's companies with big marketing budgets that get in front of people, rather than small independent trainers, consultants, product developers find it really difficult to break down those barriers. And I wanted to change that and give people the opportunity to be able to get heard and be seen by the right people, and to form collaborations with other people as well, so that they could offer more to the sector rather than just what they did alone on a standalone. And that was sort of set up around about May last year, and then I didn't do very much with it. And then we got to December, and all my work got pushed again, as it had been all year, because there was something that happened last year. I can't remember what it was. It was in the newspapers. That caused a bit of a whirlwind around the world, and still seems to be. And I decided to make it into a business and actually start connecting people and calling it a network. And that's where the Careconnect Network was born and became what it is now, or start of what it is now, of connecting smaller suppliers and providers of products and services to the care sector. Usually the smaller ones, smaller groups, smaller care home providers, but not just care homes, it's all sorts of care. So we've got people with that do supported living with people with complex needs and disabilities. We've got children's care. We've got domiciliary care, care homes, neuro care, pretty much everything that falls under the social care banner. And it was to help connect them so that they knew what was out there, but also in what we do like a learning experience time stuff as well, where we will have different people speaking about their expertise and how it can actually influence the care sector and help them with their inefficiencies in their spending, and also to improve their provision of care.
It sounds a wonderful community that you've created here, or you haven't created it, you've brought people together to create the community, essentially. So tell me more about why the care sector, what happened there? How did you get involved in the care sector?
Well, my mum was a care of the elderly nurse all my life, and I used to be going to the care homes with my mum from a very young age. And when I say a young age, it was different times. The matron actually put a cot into one of the rooms because my dad was in the Navy and at sea, and they wanted my mum back at work. So they put a cot in one of the rooms, and I used to sleep in the care home at night. And then I suppose over the years, I just loved being in that environment and talking to, especially when you think, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old boy in a care home that is predominantly full of ex-service people from the war. Some of the stories that used to get told were fascinating and fantastic. So that was always something that was on my mind, was the care side. And then as I grew up, I was either going to become a nurse or a chef. Unfortunately, I'm not great with bodily fluids, so I decided to go with chefing. Well, if you're dealing with the care sector, you don't have much choice. So I went down that route, and then I studied dietetics. I changed my career when I was in my 30s and went and studied dietetics at university. And then when I left, I set up a company to provide nutrition training and catering management training and consultancy to the care sector. So it was a way that I could actually help the care sector and give back to what they do. That's why I got involved in the care sector. And then, as I say, things changed a little last year, and the embryo of the Careconnect Network started, and it's just growing and growing from there, really.
So helping all these people under the social care banner, and it seems to be a huge range of people who you're working with here. How do you then sort of take that and improve things and help people to connect? So you mentioned that you have them coming on and listening to various learning experiences, but what is it that you are doing that's helping them to understand who can help and how they can help, and essentially why they can help?
Yeah, no. On a Wednesday now, I started this a couple of months ago, and it's going really well. We're getting some really, I'm going to try and say this word, I'm not very great with this, innovative products that are coming on that wouldn't see the light of day, like sanitizing door handles and cups that measure how much is in them to start with, and then how much the person has drank. And it does it all by Bluetooth and records everything. All these sorts of things are things that, and a new paint that's just been brought over to the UK that can kill bacteria and mold for up to 6 years. So it's just fascinating stuff that we're getting in. But about 2 months ago, I started the Weekly Huddle, which is on a Wednesday morning at 9:30. Anyone's welcome to come along and say hello. Just get in touch. And we basically do around the room what people do. If you're a supplier into the sector, What is it you do? What have you got to offer? And then from the people from the care side that come into the room, what are they looking for? Who do they want to talk to? And then I connect them, putting them together. I get quite a lot of people, even though I don't want to become a procurement site, because that's too much like hard work, and I want to start playing golf more. That it is about connecting them. They will get in touch with me, ask me who I know in that field, and I will put people in touch with each other. And it seems to be something that, as I say, it's growing quite well now. People are starting to realize that it is a safe space for them as well. So one of my rules is that you can't directly message any of the care providers if you're a supplier within the network. You have to wait for them to make you can say, if they say that they're looking for something, you can say on the thread that you can assist them, but you can't actually get in touch directly with them unless they give you permission, which is giving them that safe space, which is allowing people to be able to feel safe in asking for something, but also for the suppliers to be able to post up to say what they do.
So clearly this is something that you just had as part of your world from a very early age. I mean, literally from birth all the way through. And then you talk about how this new network that you've created has been born out of frustration. What is your frustration with the care sector in general? I
suppose that they're quite reactive rather than proactive. In the past, whenever I've talked about my nutrition stuff, it's been, why somebody said something, as the CQC said something, or the CI up here in Scotland. And it's like, no. And it's like, well, why do we need to do it then? And I don't just think it's the care sector. I think the whole of healthcare as well is exactly the same spot. I was actually told when I said I wanted to go into geriatric dietetics, and when they said why, I said I wanted to change the way nutrition was delivered to the elderly. And I was told by somebody quite senior, don't go into the NHS because you'll change nothing. It's too big. And it seems to be the same way. There's a lot of talk at the minute that, and within our network as well, that a lot of care homes or care businesses are going to become extinct if they don't change. And they need to look at things from a different perspective going forward. And that's what we as the network are trying to do. It's getting them to look at other things. So over the last year, we've talked about COVID 0 times. Every other thing out there around the care sector is constantly talking about COVID. We've never covered it. We've covered the other aspects of business, the business of running a care home, the things that people struggle to talk about. I'm not sure whether you've had Ricky on as a guest, and Ricky came and spoke to us about gender and gender awareness within the care sector. And these are the sorts of things that get missed. So these are the sorts of things that I want to cover within the network to help them from a business perspective as well, because people don't come from a business background, a lot of people that work in the care sector. And then they're thrust in at management level, and they've got people to deal with and a business to deal with, as well as the clinical side to deal with. And it's trying to help people get those things into order. And then, the other frustration with the care sector is the actual things that come down. There was guidance put out last week about the new variant. And then on Friday evening, they released a new guidance out, but it was an updated guidance, and they'd missed a comma. somebody hadn't put a comma in. So they sent all this guidance out to these care homes with the comma put in. And it's like, do you not think they've got enough to deal with without worrying whether there's a comma in somewhere, and especially being dyslexic, I wouldn't even read the comma anyway. It's just frustrating that things aren't seen from that perspective. It is bureaucracy beyond belief a lot of the time. That's one of the reasons why we've set up, or are in the process of setting up, the masked provider, where we're going to actually have people on that are disguised and their voice distorted, and they're, and we're going to talk to them about what are their frustrations within the sector. What do they think needs to be done? What does need to be changed, apart from finances and staffing? Or as well as finances and staffing, should I say? But what can we do as a network of people to help them get some quick fixes? Because there's just so much frustration out there and overwhelm at the minute. The overwhelm is just beyond belief. And it's sad to see and sad to hear as well when you're talking to managers and you're on Zoom, they're in a room with other people, the camera's not on, and you can tell that they're either in tears or close to. And it's just so frustrating and upsetting when we know that there's a lot of answers out there. They just don't know where to go to ask for help, and there are a lot of experts and people like myself who are experts in what we do, me around the food and nutrition stuff, that, as I say, don't get heard or seen, and people don't know we exist, and people don't think that they need us as well until we walk through the door and go, ta-da, and they go, wow. Why have we waited so long for this to happen?
So I'm hearing the frustration behind the people not being given the opportunity to be seen or heard, but also that they are being reactive as opposed to proactive. And that's reflected in the NHS, not just in the care sector. In general, that's in our health and the way that we are living right now. We're very much not sort of looking at what could happen. We're just reacting to it when it happens.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. It's a constant reactionary process at the minute, rather than trying to get ahead of everything. As you say, with our own health as well, we don't focus on that, and we're just heading to burnout and overwhelm.
And the later part of our years, Iain, I mean, we're living longer. We are looking to have a longer time potentially in care, because our bodies are going to be around, but we've got other issues where we need that assistance. When should we be starting to think about that time of our life?
In vitro. It's now, things have come down that far now, but it's when you're 19, 20, 21, thinking about being 70 is like, you're indestructible, aren't you? And then you get to sort of like close to 50 and you start thinking, well, we're heading towards that direction now of care. And what is care going to look like for us? And that's why we need to, because the care sector needs to change. The care model needs to change. As from what I can see and from talking to other people, that there is going to be a big shift, but we need to start taking care of ourselves. As I've said to you before, when in 1951 there was 300 people reached their 100th birthday, and they reckon by 2031 there's going to be 35,000 people reaching their 100th birthday. So we are living longer, but we're living longer in an ill state, which is what they class as an ill state, where, whereas we used to retire at 60, 65, and then the life expectancy was 5 to 10 years. Whereas now we're retiring at 60, 65, and life expectancy is about another 20, 30 years. So we're starting to live more in an ill state. So we need to start looking at the models of care that we've got out there. And that's something we've started doing through the Careconnect Network as well, about the different models and how they can be implemented and put in place. And what are people looking for? We've got a lot of luxury care homes out there. Are they luxury care, or are they aesthetically luxury? I think that, do we need all the aesthetics if you are at end of life care? Or would you rather pay the same money and have someone sitting with you holding your hand? And as I say, there's been a lot of discussions within the network about this sort of stuff. I've discussed it a lot with people as well, personally, and with other care home providers, around how we can look at implementing all these different things that we've got out there as well, and just making sure that the care that we're providing is right, the building is suitable for what is needed, and that we're cutting out all the inefficiencies within care and actually making sure that, we're doing things right rather than ticking a box. There's a lot of box ticking. But that comes down to the bureaucracy of, being told that that's what they have to do. And that's why I feel for the care managers and stuff like that. And that's why other people also like coming on the Careconnect Network stuff, is because I say it as it is. And don't hold back on different things, because if everyone just holds back, then no one hears the truth.
So I'm hearing a two-pronged attack that's needed. People take responsibility for their own health so that they are approaching the elderly years in a fitter state. But then also that the care sector is evolving to meet the needs. So there's the two sides that are needed here. But as you said, it's a case of actually giving what people are wanting as opposed to what they think people want, or again, that really fine difference there between a luxury care home and whether that's giving you luxury care or it's the home that is a luxurious building. And that is a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it is, and that's what needs to be looked at. And that's why I think that a lot of the stuff that's coming out at the minute, from Panorama and people like that, are highlighting things in care that haven't been highlighted before. And there is a big focus on social care. And one of the other things that I think about and has been mentioned before is, who is the luxury care home for? Like, what I mean by that, the luxury aesthetics. Is it for the person that's going into care? Or is it to relieve the guilt of the person that is saying to them, right, you need to go into care? So when they walk in, they go, well, that's a nice building. And if we can start letting people know what luxury care can look like at different levels, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have these places. That's not what I'm saying at all. There is a place for them, and that's at level 1. When someone gets to level 7, though, do they still need that aesthetic side of things? I'm also not saying that they should just be in a room with a bed. Do you know what I mean? There's the whole compromise of of what is needed for the person and to bring it back to person-centered care. But that's why with the network, there's a lot of people that are coming into it that are bringing some, as I say, some fantastic products and innovations for the care sector that I think are going to be game changers.
Yeah, I love the idea of paint that is mold free for 6 years. That sounds fantastic. And also for the other one, which is self-cleansing door handles and things. It's brilliant, genius ideas. Tell me, Iain, what is the driver for you now? What is the purpose behind the work you're doing?
I think the purpose behind it is to help improve the care sector, to help, sorry, not to improve it, gone past that, change the care sector for the better, to help the smaller suppliers that are out there to be seen and heard and be recognized by the people that are out there, and that we're not just in it to rip them off. I had a care provider tell me that my nutrition stuff was expensive, and it was actually the catering management side of it, that it was expensive. And then when I explained that I saved the care home £39,500 a year just by restructuring their staffing, suddenly that £4,000 that it cost them didn't seem so much anymore. It's about letting people know what is out there, and that there are people out there that do what they do from the supplier side because they care, because we care about the people that are in care. We also care about the people that are providing care. And that's why we went into doing what we do. That's why I went over to America and did the behavioral performance management training and got diplomas in that, because the first place I went into and did my training, they did what I wanted them to do for a couple of weeks and then back to what they were doing beforehand. And then when I asked questions about why this was happening, I was told it was normal. And I went and spent more money to go over to America to find out how I could work out for that not to happen. I didn't go into the care home to take money out of it. I went in to improve stuff. I think that by people knowing that there are people out there that do care but still have a business, that just because we're giving our knowledge away and skills doesn't mean that it's not worth as much as a product. I think is a big key thing. That I find quite a lot that people think that we are expensive, as I say, until we do what we do. And I think that goes for most of us in this sort of realm, not just in the care sector, but in the whole speaking and training sector, that people think that we're expensive until they see the results, but they don't happen instantaneously, unfortunately.
So is it that instant results and the gratification that they're looking for, and if they can't see the long-term benefits, then they're not interested?
Yeah, I would say so, pretty much so. I think that's the same for a lot of people, though, and not just I think in any industry, it's the same sort of thing. I always use that analogy of the postcard that I saw with the king fighting a battle with bow and arrows, and the guy standing behind him with a machine gun, and someone going, "There's someone here to see you," and he says, "I can't see you right now because I'm busy." And it's like, well, sometimes you got to look behind you. Or as someone came up with the analogy of the crocodile, it's in the swamp. If you spend all the time batting the crocodiles away instead of paddling out the swamp, you're always going to stay in the swamp.
Yeah. So is it a case, though, Iain, that people don't have the resources to just stop and reflect and think about what can change?
Absolutely. Stop the word stop is the hardest thing to say, isn't it? You know, if you don't have a new start point, or if you're standing in the middle of that fire, or you know, you're that king in that battle, having the time and the thought process to say, stop, let's go down this route instead, is hard to do. I mean, if you're just constantly firefighting with everything that's going on, saying that word stop and stopping, you know, and I think this is why we talk a lot about change in the care sector. Government talk about change. CQC talk about change. We all talk about change. Nothing changes because as we know, you know, to change something, you need to stop doing something and start doing something different. But you can't stop if everything's on fire around you. And that's where the Care Connector, the people within the Care Connector and the Care Connector can help people within the care sector. Because we can go, right, well, we can put out these fires for you. Then you can look at changing. You know, I mean, there's been quite a few collaborations formed within the Care Connector where we can actually now, instead of just looking at a CQC report and going, oh, they've got these problems, we can actually look at a CQC report and go, they've got these problems. Iain can do that, Kath can do that, Jennifer can do that. And then actually looking at how we can approach people as a whole and saying, right, this is what we can do for you.
So going back to that conversation where you were shut down by someone senior saying, you know, you're not going to make any changes, what are you going to do to prove to them that it's possible?
Well, one of the things that we're looking at doing is actually taking on a care home and then implementing all of the things that we feel should be in there, providing luxury care. And whether that's through technology base, whether that's through training, whether that's through consultancy work, you know, whatever it is that is needed, that it gets put in to show that if you do this, we can then, you can provide this and have a profit margin as well. So that's our sort of thing that we've got in our chat at the minute, is how, you know, going about those next steps of looking at acquiring a care home and then building it up into something that, as a model that we can put out there for other people to follow.
And as they say, seeing is believing. So once you can see it, and then people can then see the vision and believe what you're trying to achieve by saying, well, this is the model that you can also replicate. This is how we've done it. And here we go. So absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same as my socks. You know, I wouldn't have believed it if anyone had told me, if I hadn't have got them myself and saw the benefit of those.
Tell me about your socks. What are your socks?
Socks are wearable neurotechnology that has basically transformed my life. I'm now must be about 21 weeks without taking painkillers, whereas I used to be taking them between 16 and 20 a day, all different types. You know, one's for anti-inflammatories, one's for pain, and I've not been taking any. That's been completely transformational for me, but also helping with my sleep and my anxiety levels, and being able to play with my kids has been one of the biggest highlights, I think, and do stuff with them rather than being the person sat in the corner on my phone because I can't actually do anything with them rather than not wanting to. So that's been quite transformational, shall we say.
Sounds amazing. And the socks, can we give them a shout out?
Yeah, they are on my website for that one, and that's Exilis at voxlife.com. And I shall pass on the connections for that to yourself. But yeah, it's just been amazing. And there's 54,000 people now in the testimonial group. So there's a lot of people's lives it's changed. And I'm actually doing a talk tonight on fibromyalgia and neurology.
Amazing. Well, I'll have a conversation with you about those because I think I know someone who would do really well with them. So we'll have that chat later. Iain, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast to share why you're doing what you're doing. And it's a huge project. It's not an overnight one. It is a purpose that's going to outlive you and continue, I'm sure, and beyond. So yeah, well done for championing what you're doing.
Thanks very much. It's the biggest thing for me is that, as I've said to people who have joined the network, this isn't about getting a bigger bit of the pie. This is about making the pie bigger so that we can all get a bit of it. There's over 500 different types of supplier to the sector. There's plenty to go around.
Yeah. So how can people get in contact with you, Iain? Where should they go?
They can get in contact with me on LinkedIn. It's quite easy. My name. Or I've got a business page, which is the Careconnect business page on LinkedIn. Facebook, there's the Careconnect Facebook group. And very shortly, hopefully, fingers crossed, there is going to be a completely new social platform for the care sector. So social and learn group page on a completely separate platform from LinkedIn and Facebook that is just going to be dedicated to the care sector that we're going to be starting up. And I will drop you the information for that one once it's available. But that's how they can get in touch with me, or on Twitter, it's CNC Iain.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure all of those go into the show notes. So if people are out and about right now, they can just go and find that, especially with a new social and learn platform that's going to come out. Iain, thank you again. It's been a pleasure. How would you like to close out the episode today?
I just want to say thanks very much, and a big shout out to all the care people that are out there, the managers, the care workers, the families behind those care workers and managers that are supporting them to do their job. And hope everyone stays safe and keeps well.
Thank you for listening to Focus on Why with me, Amy Rowlandson. To show your appreciation and to help other listeners understand what value you have received from tuning in today, please leave me an Apple Podcast 5-star review. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. To keep it going, connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook or Twitter, or join the inspiring, uplifting and positive Focus on Why Facebook group. All the links are in the show notes. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.